Sorry for the delay. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, dear guests and friends. We welcome you in Russia today. Let's begin the work of our roundtable. It will be devoted to the topic Industry 330 Degrees, Opportunities, Obstacles and Cooperation. It's part of the Moscow Africa 2021 event, supported by the Center for Export Support, Mosprom. I'm happy to introduce my guest here, General Director of Parus Electro, Mr. Vladimir Khlebnikov, consultant on investments in the mining industry of the Keshadale Investment Limited, Mr. Ismail Shilayev. We welcome you. Deputy General Director for Innovations of Bakor, Mr. Mikhail Korolov. Chief Operating Director of Advanced Specialized Solution Limited, Mr. Adesina Adekore. Head of Marketing of Finger Complex, Mr. Maxim Davidov here. Head of the Department for Development of Inform Technica and Spheres, Mr. Khlebnikov, Mr. Jani Ibrahim, Coordinator for Economic Relations and Cooperation of Mozambique, Mr. Salim Mohamed Hanifo. The economy of African countries has been growing by 4 to 5% in the past 15 years. Sometimes it was 7 or 8%, way ahead of even some Asian nations. It's forecast that in the 30 years to come, the economy can grow to make $29 trillion. African countries today feel a need to broaden and improve their infrastructure. Many international organizations and corporations are involved in the African transportation, mining, civil, energy and other kinds of infrastructure. So what can Moscow companies do there? How can they become involved in cooperation projects in Africa? This is the question that I address, first of all, to Russian industrialists, but speakers from other countries will also have an opportunity to make their viewpoint known. So we will begin our discussion with Mr. Vladimir Khlebnikov. He will show us the slides of his presentation, Mr. Khlebnikov of Parus Electro. Good afternoon, colleagues. I'll be brief. I'll say a few words about our company and our exports. We are a Moscow company that develops and produces converters, such as UPS, wind and solar converters, and electric car chargers. We have our own production facilities, and we occupy a certain sizable share of the Russian market for each type of equipment, 12% for electric units, 60% for chargers, and so on. The market for electric chargers is very new in Russia, but we hope for a big share there. But this is not exactly what I'm going to talk about today. Global tendencies today in the converter industry are something that makes us quite happy. UPS structures and data centers and servers are growing, as you can see in this slide. If we look at electric transportation vehicles and the infrastructure that is necessary for them, this also shows a curve of growth that is climbing quite steeply. Each country has some sort of program to develop electric powered transportation vehicle, whether it's a government or a private industrial program. The same can be said about wind and solar. Europe may have already formed the general infrastructure for solar and wind power, but countries of Africa and of other regions are only embarking upon this project, and each country has its own plan and project. When we first started offering our products in international markets, and specifically African markets, we encountered a number of obstacles, to quote from the name of this roundtable event. We were very well received in all the countries listed here. These are the countries where we went with our trade missions a number of times. We even found partners in those countries who were supported by government officials, and certainly power units, uninterrupted power units, are very necessary in all countries, for instance, to make sure the medical equipment doesn't stop. You can't even begin to think about a surgery or breathing units for COVID patients without recognizing how necessary uninterrupted current is there. And African countries do have a problem with the consistency of current supply. Countries such as South Africa suffer outages for a number of hours almost every day. So we would go there and ask questions, asking people, how do you manage? How do you deal with that? They said, we have diesel motors powering our electrical units if necessary, but we know that a diesel engine takes minutes to come into full motion, and that's unacceptable in many situations. But still we encountered barriers. One was that there is no culture of advanced payment for supplies of imports. This can be a problem because you have to look for certain banking instruments to take care of that. I mean, banking instruments in Russia. We can't work when all payments only happen after the fact. The Russian Export Center, which is our bank, does not work with all the countries that we were interested in. Some countries that they deemed too exotic to work with, they did not serve, and we had to look for alternative ways of resolving this issue. Secondly, if we are talking about other kinds of products less universally used than power supply units, something that you have to order on bespoke design, then this kind of equipment has to be ordered by the government and perhaps supported by government guarantees. That was another obstacle. Government guarantees were not easy to come by. A number of countries, such as Senegal, are quite advanced in building solar stations, and they welcome investments, not turnkey projects, but investments. They would like to see Russian investors, for instance, but this does require guarantees. And this takes time, and this is a very complicated process in such countries. So we see great potential in the African market, and we see that our industry is one that seems to be set up for success there. And it's a very competitive market. For instance, the country of Nepal, it's we deem it to be our success story. We won a tender against a number of competing Chinese companies supplying power units. And this was very well organized, and all the documentation presentation ran smoothly. But going back to the African continent, what we need is an entry point in Russia, some sort of institution that would be aware of African specific situations and that could offer businesses such as ours a number of instruments that would embolden us to participate in this cooperation, because we can't afford to lose a lot of time and effort to see it all come to nothing. To refer to our example, I would say we would even be interested in localization. We can organize, for instance, a large module assembly on site, and maybe start from one African country and work with a number of neighboring ones. So we're open to cooperation in many modes with the African continent, but we would like to see more purposeful support on behalf of the Russian government and the government of Moscow specifically. Mosprom is certainly doing a lot in order to support us when we look for first contacts and when we look to organize logistics in African countries. That's one area where support is welcome and needed. So what's lacking is financial instruments and institutions to support that. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Klebnikov. We're working in the format of a video conference, so we'll now talk to Mr. Ismail Shilayev, remotely connected to this conference. Good afternoon. Mr. Shilayev will talk about the African mining industry. Good afternoon, esteemed participants of the Moscow Africa 2021 Forum. Africa is an area that looks more and more attractive to the global economy. Africa is a continent with great economic prospects. Today, Africa is a land of great opportunity in many different industries and spheres of activities, such as prospecting and mining. Today, Africa is the continent which shows greatest promise in the mining area. Some of the major global companies are already represented in Africa. Africa has large deposits of diamonds, gold, and other minerals, and major players are already involved in Africa, but there is room for many more companies. Wonderful opportunities for detecting new mineral deposits, that's Africa. Materials from previous prospecting efforts and the experience from past cooperation efforts with African companies are there. Quite a lot of African countries show a high level of education in their population. For instance, Zimbabwe is one leading country here. An ordinary African has an opportunity and the right to stake a plot of land for mining. And that's an opportunity. Many such small prospectors would welcome partners from other countries. There are a lot of projects and territories that show great promise in prospecting and finding deposits. These are underexplored territories, and there are also areas where exploration has shown positive results. There are also a number of mining enterprises that are running. For instance, Zimbabwe has a lot of projects where gold and chromium are mined. Many countries of the African continents have enough legislative framework to attract and welcome foreign investors. In Zimbabwe, for instance, they use a slogan, Zimbabwe, land of open to business. There are special centers that are set up to support and register international investors. One of the key questions that the international investor will want to ask is investment protection and the right to export the proceeds of investments. Foreign investments are the most promising way of improving local economies through attracting new technology, setting up industrial facilities, and raising the skills of the local population, thus raising their living standards. Technological progress has always been the means of improving lives. So in many African countries today, foreign investors can own as much as 100% of the shares in a mining enterprise, with few exceptions, such as diamond and platinum mining, where a certain share of government ownership is required. There is a superstition that Africa is a land of slow decisions, but this is not true. African countries are prepared to work to international rules, to register companies promptly, work with their necessary line ministries, and if there is a will, it is quite possible and fairly easy to set up an enterprise in Africa. And we've seen a number of delegations from countries like Russia looking for investment opportunities, and they had a chance to meet high-ranking ministerial officials within a matter of weeks. And it takes just a few days to register a new company. Certainly there are certain things that are unique to Africa, but they are understandable, and they all have a human context, which boils down to the rules, do as you would be done by. The mining industry is very important for the African continent and a source of great hope for the development of African nations that they hold. So the organization of mining enterprises has to be undertaken with care and understanding. Mining enterprises tend to be situated outside big cities in rural landscapes with local indigenous populations. It's also very necessary to build necessary relations and friendly relations with those local populations within the requirements of the law, of course. It is important if you are organizing a mining enterprise to take care of your paperwork and to write up all the documents in accordance with international standards. All the obligations and promises made by the local side have to be written down and certified. Mining licenses need to be long-term and extendable. Construction documentation has to be registered in accordance with national rules. Some barriers can arise, such as frequent changes in legislation in the mining sphere or in trading in mining products. Sometimes countries can change their currency exchange rules. That can pose a difficulty. Sometimes in such cases, international companies enter long negotiations with central banks and mining ministries of African countries. Many Russian mining countries that have invested in African and South American countries in the 1990s had to close down because they did not have enough experience of working outside their national context.
Sometimes they never could make proper investments. They would not invest enough in working with the local companies, and they sometimes have conflicts with the local communities, and authorities do not honor their contract obligations. Sometimes they simply misbehave and do not work according to proper conduct rules. It is very important working in Africa to look into all various social charges and taxes, but there should also be taken into account local charges and payments. These are often ignored, although they play a very important role in any operations. In the majority of African companies, it is very important to focus on local communities. So there's lack of proper regulation there, and you need to work very hard to retain proper consulting agencies and well-known audit companies like Ernst & Young and other big four. Another aspect that you need to focus on is compliance in your business with the labor legislation in Zimbabwe and a number of other African countries. Governments look very keenly on the way you structure your relations with the labor, and workers are well protected, but there will be no problems for you if you just comply with effective labor legislation, which is not difficult. And if you have a local human resources officer, we of course need to have some sort of a center that would offer consultancy advice. And you see Russian companies that lacked this kind of legislative support. You could be successful in Africa, and when you are successful, it is much easier to find the common language with local communities and with every level throughout the country. Welcome to Africa, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for your invitation, Mr. Shalaev. You were very detailed, talking about opportunities and the potential of African industrial companies. What are the prospects awaiting Moscow-based companies if they want to branch out into Africa? I think they would find a lot of good opportunities. Moscow is known for its industrial companies, and in Africa, where I'm now, we see a large range of opportunities for various investments. They've got well-educated, skilled human resources as a big market in various areas of operations and activities. What is important here is to have similar fora, and you may also do well by sending a delegation of the Moscow Chamber of Industry and Commerce to somewhere in Africa. They've got a lot of opportunities in agriculture, power, mining, and the demand has been growing lately. Thank you very much for your presentation, and I'm sure we'll suggest to the Moscow Chamber of Industry Commerce to look into these opportunities. Now I'll give the floor to Mr. Korolyov to continue. Could I please have my presentation on the screen? This is not that much of a discussion, but this is a presentation of my company to our potential partners in Africa. Well, I don't recognize my presentation, but I'm coming from the group of companies, Bakor. We are a Moscow-based center, and we're the leader in the development and manufacture of new equipment in materials based on ceramic composition, refractories, ceramic refractories, and certain engineering equipment that is used in various chemical, petrochemical industries, in mining, and we also offer a large range of cleaning equipment based on ceramic purifiers for gas and dust cleaning. We, in our company, cover the entire range of demands and requirements of our partners. We do research, we do production, and we offer customer service. So we also develop new materials, and we offer our services in tailor-made solutions for our partners. We do implementation of our own developments and offer post-warranty and warranty service and maintenance of our equipment, its maintenance and troubleshooting. We also do the training of the personnel using our equipment. Our research and development center has 3 laboratories. One is a new materials laboratory. They basically develop all the new technologies and new materials. We have a laboratory which looks into mineral processing equipment, and we also have a research center that works in the area of gaseous media separation and gas flow cleaning from dust and harmful impurities. We have the status of a Russian exporter. We have over 150 patents. In 2020, we were recognized as a major industrial group. And you can see it in this slide. I talked about it during the plenary session, but I just wanted to point out that we supply to 16 countries in the world and work with almost all major mining corporations across the world, not just in Russia or CIS countries, but also in India, Latin America, North America. We're present virtually on every continent. Briefly about our products. We do ceramic disc filters for ore concentrates. I probably won't be taking you through all the details, talking about various technical details. They probably are more of interest for the specialists, but just to give you an understanding what we do, I'll just briefly introduce to our products. So we offer various tower press filters. We do filters for the purification of suspensions. It's important in copper industry. We do gas cleaning devices. It's needed in mining, but also in gas purification solutions, including environmental requirements, and the purification happens at high temperatures. And you could use the purified gases for other purposes after the cleaning. We also, and it is one of our most recent solutions, is the so-called hazardous waste thermal treatment complex. We are talking here about all kind of hazardous waste, biological, and it's based on filtering. And we're using here our ceramic filters. We also offer standard gas cleaning equipment, cyclone filters, centrifugal filters, with a wide range of purposes. And all of our products may not be that much used, but it is very important for your operations, and it is particularly needed at the most essential, important phases of production, in treatment and in purification, in those modules where there's a large, very strict requirement to purity or corrosive resistance. And here I offered some of our specific products, and of course you could we could share this presentation, and you could look into that in more detail. We have products for nuclear industry, for aircraft building, oil and gas, and this is a very wide-ranging lines of products, of refractories, and we could design and offer our solutions to our partners and customers. Let me at the end, you can see our contacts, of course, and you could contact us directly, but let me reiterate what I said during the plenary session. We're looking forward to offering the full range of solutions, from laboratory tests, preliminary tests, and it is important for our clients, and it is offered for free. We are interested to make sure that our partners could like our products and see the good prospects they will be getting with our equipment. It'll make our life easier going forward, where our partners know how to operate our equipment, that they could get what they need, and they could rely on us. And of course, it's all included, production, engineering, and post sales, maintenance, technical services. We talk to our partners and make sure that our equipment can be monitored through our situation center. We have the direct mapping so that we could predicts and troubleshoots anything happening. We are open to cooperation suggestions. We could set up a regional branch, and we could look into possibility to localize our production, some of the assemblies or some of the spare parts of our equipment. Based on your presentation, your company, your research and development center is working with various countries across the world, but not that much with Africa. Am I wrong? You haven't branched out heavily into Africa. Do you think there is demand for your products in African countries? I would argue it should be very popular, similar to my colleagues here. We know companies and enterprises where our competitors sell their products. They are the same mining companies that use similar equipment, but we could offer our services in adaptation, in adjusting our equipment. There are cases where you could buy equipment but don't get the services, maintenance services. So you have to look on the market for other ways. But we are there to become your supporter and assistant in installing the equipment already bought, supply you with spare parts. We are doing that across the CIS countries, and we could do the same in other countries. For us, Africa is 100% our potential customer, and we want to focus working on there. Thank you very much. Vista Abessina Adekora will talk about technology transfers in African countries. You have the words.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Adeshina Adekore. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to address this conference. I go straight to the point. Looking at how Russia could become relevant to Africa, and to look at what already exists, what is existing now, why has that failed? So I'm talking about enriching Africa through technology transfer and modern technology management. This is who I am. I'm a born Nigerian, I'm a Canadian. I have 25 years in technology management. My field covers satellite, RF broadcast, radio IP, ports, WAN, renewables, and cyber. We do military, government contracting, civil and private, and technology manufacturing. This is my thoughts. There is more than enough opportunities for Russia in Africa if we have a technology transfer and a management development program for Africa that works. That is very crucial, because over the years since I have been born in Lagos, I have seen made in Taiwan, made in France, made in USA, made in China. All these countries have failed Africa technologically. Africa is in debt financially, technologically, and scientifically. It would be nice for Russia to help Africa technologically. And this is very crucial. I think that you can't really sell products, and Russia cannot enter into Africa except we address these two major issues. This is what these 5 countries have done to Africa in terms of technology deficiency, and how they have affected Africa negatively. All these countries, if you look at India, India will build an industry in your country, but that country will not be industrialized. That has happened to Nigeria. You have Indian industries built 40 years, and yet Nigeria is not industrialized. France, the Francophone nations are completely dependent on France. and they're technologically backwards. China is serious. Africa is seriously indebted to China, yet we do not have technology. A company in Nigeria, and I'm talking more about Nigeria because I like to talk about what I have precise information about. A Chinese company in Nigeria called NTA Star Times. They've been operating in Nigeria for the past 12 years, and yet all the management staff, all the key staffs are brought into China. No value added. The future is mortgaged. The British, the British just want to give Africa aids, but in terms of technology development, it is not an issue. USA will sell you the product, but the maintenance and the sustenance of it, you may not get. Now, this is a quick to show you, for example, how bad Nigeria is. Nigeria is close to about $3 billion and more in debt to China, and yet Nigeria is technologically backwards. Most of this debt came out of China saying, we're going to build you technology, and yet the country is still backwards. Now, why have all these countries failed to develop Africa technologically? Despite the fact that India has been operating in Africa for maybe 50, 60 years, China for like 20-something years, USA, France, for God knows how long. Why have they failed to develop Africa technologically? The first one is that we have Africans themselves who are saboteurs. They love the way, the status quo, the way things are. They would do anything for it to stay the way it is. The second one is technology dumps. Africa has become a dumping ground for technology, obsolete technologies. We are getting diesel generators shipped down when advanced countries are talking about renewables, mineral resources. Chinese are invading African countries and illegally mining stuff, expatriates. Take, for example, a large chunk of Nigeria's forex goes into expatriates' payments, their salaries being paid, and that goes to China, goes to India. Next, foreign investment, educational benefits. Most of the time, these countries have left Africa technologically backwards because of educational benefits, because they enjoy African students coming into their country and being trained. And also you have future financial gains and economic wars. This is very crucial. For example, if a country begins to deal with Russia, a country like USA might say, you know what, we do not want to deal with you again. Just to go on now, there are two major obstacles to African technologies development. The first one I call technology transfer. All these countries have not transferred technology to Africa. They are okay, Africa buying the finished product. The second one is technology management. Now, the technology transfer, I quickly look at it as blood transfusion, that this is the life of Africa. If Africa is going to grow, whether you're talking about agri, you're talking about mining, you're talking about medical, you're talking about aviation, we've got to develop, and we need technology transfer. Just like a patient that has lost too much blood and is in coma, Africa is in technology coma as we speak. It needs blood, which is technology transfusion. Unfortunately, all these other nations are not interested in that. The second one is technology management. When you have given a patient blood transfer, you need to sustain that patient. And we need to be able to manage the technology that you transfer onto us. I use this quick analogy. Africa is technologically anemic. And these are symptoms when a person is anemic. You have fatigue, weakness, dizziness. Africa is so weak. It can't feed itself. It can't protect itself. We are waiting for Europe to sell us COVID vaccine. 50-something countries can't develop a vaccine. We do not have laboratories. And yet, all these countries have been operating here. So it's like that symptom of anemia, where it's fatigue, is weak, and it is dizzy. Another symptom is sharpness of breath. Yes, Africa is finding it hard to breathe under huge debt, and there is no way of paying that debt back because most of what we were sold are not marketable. They're not. You can't mortgage them. Irregular heartbeat. That's another symptom of anemic. And Africa is pale. Its heartbeat is irregular. That's why one of the things that I was thinking that the Russian guys would have talked about is that how do we solve this irregularity of policies in Africa? And that's because the heartbeat is irregular. You never know whether it's going to breathe high or it's going to breathe low. The next thing is headache. Africa cannot think right, and a lot of things are wrong. I move to the next one. What do I personally desire that the Russian strategy should be for African technology development? The first one is we need Russia to transfer technology to us. We have tried America, we have tried Britain, we have tried China, we have tried India, we have tried France, and yet we're still backward. I think that Russia is the next one that should come in. We just don't need Russian shoes. We don't need you to produce shoes and ship down. We need you to get involved, transfer technology to us. The second one is we need Russia to help in technology management. You can transfer technology to someone. If he doesn't know how to manage it, it's a waste of time. We need you to be able to do that. The next thing we need from Russia is to help in technology education. We need to be able to educate our people in terms of technology because our people are way behind. We have African students going to Canada, going to USA, and yet till today, we're still bringing expatriates from India to run our telco. One of the telcos, Globacom, it's full of Indians, and yet we have so many students sent into USA to study in technology. We need you guys to help in technology in education. We also need you in your personnel. For example, we see in Africa a lot of personnel coming in from India, coming in from China, coming in from all those places. They do not teach those people what they are doing. In fact, they hide it. In fact, the Chinese will hide it. In fact, the Indians will hide it. Because once you know that, then you don't need them again. The next thing is we need Russia to step up to begin to finance technology in Africa. Like the earlier Russian speaker that talked about EV chargers and electric vehicles. That is fantastic. But the electronic EV chargers don't mean a thing except we can first start to make solar panels and begin to make solar electricity and begin to make ESS and begin to make advanced batteries that can sustain that. Lastly, we need Russia to set up industrial parks. That's what of the things that the Chinese promised us and they have not delivered. They promised, oh, we'll set up technology, industrial parks for you. We need you. Let me go to the next point. What's the role of Moscow Chamber of Commerce and Industry in technology development for Africa? 4 things which I see. The first one is that we need your Chamber of Commerce to protect, to promote, to persuade, and to provide. We need you to protect businesses, African countries and businesses that want to do business with Russian businesses. We need you to protect it, vice versa. I need to be sure that if I'm doing business with a Russian business, someone is going to protect me. Someone is going to have my back. That is not just going to be, I'm doing business with you and I do not know who I'm doing business with. We need you also to persuade. The Chamber of Commerce needs to persuade. You need to persuade Russian governments. You need to persuade Russian investors, Russian technologists, Russian educationists. We need you to persuade them and to show them that there are abundant resources in Africa, opportunities exist there, but we also need you to be able to step in a way to use intergovernmental relationship to persuade African countries to kind of look towards Russia because we know that you have the technology. We also need you to provide. We need you to provide information. Like last week, I was looking for information of a Russian company that sells solar cells, precisely HJT. And I saw a company, but here is the problem. I need someone to interface with them for me because of the language barrier. And finally, we need you to promote. We need you to promote Russian technology. This is very crucial. The Chinese have set up a satellite TV station, CGTN, and all that station does all over Africa is to show you Chinese technology, how China is wonderful, how China is beautiful, how China is this. We need Russia to step up, because nobody is going to buy your product except we know your capacity, except we know what your strength is, except we know what you can do. We need you to be able to do that. And I think the Chamber of Commerce can do that. Lastly, what's the benefit for Russia? Firstly, Russia will benefit economically, financially, and commerce. Africa is filled with mineral deposits and agricultural wonders. You would benefit, your economy expands, and Africa is the next place to expand to. The second thing under that is that Sub-Saharan Africa is a huge market for Russian technology. We need you. Guess what? We need your aviation technology. We need everything you can do. Social responsibility. We need you as a bigger brother. I, as a Nigerian, as an African, I am crying out to you. We need you. We are poor technologically, and we need to move forward. I'm begging you. We need you. We need you to come, because something is working for you. It needs to work for us. And lastly, this will count as Russia's corporate social responsibility to Africa. Thank you. But I'd like to say this. This is why I am so passionate about this. The USSR was many countries together, and each one of them you broke apart, and each one of those countries is sustaining itself. Maybe you did something well as Russia to transfer technology to them. We need you to transfer technology to us the Russian way, with the Russian ideology, so that you can help us and we can begin to live again in Africa. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dikori, for your wonderful presentation. You raised a number of serious issues, but as far as I understand, you can't give us any specific examples of cooperation in Nigeria, Russia in Nigeria. Can you give us some examples about that?
If you're saying, do I know if there's any Russian company operating in Nigeria, is that the question?
Yes, yes.
I can't point my fingers to that, and it's kind of bad, and I feel one in a way, because I would have expected Russia to be a major player in Nigeria's aviation industry. But guess what? One of the airlines in Nigeria, all its 6 planes are 28 years old. And Russia makes good planes. I know you make good planes, but all these airlines in Nigeria say that, oh, it's either Boeing or Airbus, because they don't know you make good planes. You need to come with your plane. You need to speak to the aviation authorities. You need to show them that your planes are as good as Airbus and Boeing. So if you're saying that, do I know if any Russian company operating in Nigeria? I do not know. I'm not sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're
Mikhail,
welcome.
would you want to follow up on what you've just heard? Are you prepared to work with African companies to train, offer skills to their African personnel? We, as far as I know, we have quite a few African undergraduates all across Russian universities here in Moscow, a number of technological universities. Well, as for the education sector, one of our priorities lie in that area. Our company is open to undergraduates and graduates who want to start working with us in the areas where we do our business. It's environment, it's mining, Russian graduates, undergraduates actually come and get new skills at our companies. They get experience, they do some work for us, but we also open to others to come. There's no restriction as to countries. Of course, we're looking for the best graduates so that we could get them after they graduate. And this is a source of our human resources. They learn about us and we learn about them. And we have some very successful careers based on that. But I would like to use this opportunity to invite undergraduates. We will welcome you, and you can get a bit on the side working for us. I got a question from Sputnik China. China is the largest trade partners for many African countries and has been contributing to the African markets. How are you going to compete with Chinese companies who have a long presence in Africa? First, whether you see this competition, yes, we see and we feel this competition, not just in Africa. We see this, our competitors in Russia and in Latin America, they are present, and we are totally ready to compete in prices, and we could supplement our offers with additional services that would make our offer even better for our partners, more attractive. We have been successful in competing in Russia, and the Russian market is very sensitive to pricing policies, and we have been very successful in competing with not just with the more expensive Western offers, but also with our Chinese competitors. Thank you, Mikhail. Now I will give the floor to Maxim Davidov. He will present his company and will take us through their experience in cooperating with Africa. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Thanks for the introduction. Let me briefly present my company and explain why we might be of interest to African companies and what is the niche of Russia in Africa, what sort of problems we see as an exporter to Africa and other continents. We also do some filters, but we produce the so-called bigger industrial dust and gas purification filters, a huge size of 10-story building, and they are used in large companies like cement plants, ferrous plants, oil and gas plants, and many industries where you will find this. We have been in the market since 1944. Our new name is FINGO, that is an abbreviation. We export to 56 countries. Most of them are we have, since the times of the Soviet Union, our equipment would be parts of the turnkey solutions that the country offered. And as a result, we we would then supply our products to Nigeria, Morocco, Egypt, and a number of other African countries. I don't want you to get bogged in technical details. Our mission is to supply world's best equipment at Russian prices. I'm sure we could be a successful player. We see Russian companies trying to get entrance to Africa, which is a very competitive market with China and other Asian companies, US companies. So we need to look for a formula that would allow us to enter that market. And this is a combination of high standard equipment and affordable prices. This affordability is due to the fact that salaries here in Russia and the weaker ruble bring down the price. And sometimes our labor is cheaper than it used to be, and as far the standards, world standards, and we usually take Europe as an example. We have had some very important modernization projects, and the degree of purification is now in line with the European standards. And we do not differentiate between domestic and export markets. Our technologies are offered to domestic as well as foreign customers in Africa, Asia, Central Asia. So again, we are prepared to give world-class technologies to Africa at world competitive prices. This is an expensive piece of equipment, and it takes years to negotiate. And we could help African countries to move on in that respect, to modernize the existing operations by introducing world-class purification equipment. So now we are to explore the second wave of exports to follow up on what the USSR was doing, and then by inertia, some of the exports happened in 1990s. But now there's a major transformational change. We do not only produce, we also offer engineering services, because our product is useless without engineering skills. I see here my colleague from expert marketing department. He speaks Arabic, and for us, Africa, particular Northern Africa, is an important area. We had very ambitious plans for 2020. Some of these ambitions were based on our certification successes, and we were preparing ourselves to going to various exhibitions, fairs, and markets our products. I call on you to look into our products. We could be faster, cheaper, and show you the necessary quality, but we failed to do that.
But with the support of Mosprom, we moved online. And for instance, we held a business mission with Algiers, and we heard of a lot of interest. We're now considering a specific order for a waste burning plant. And we're looking forward to the borders opening up so we can actually travel to the different locations. We're not the kind of industry where you can sell online. You need to meet people on the spot and make personal contacts, and of course technical visits are necessary and the audit missions. We're talking about big projects, big money and big government. So it's a dream that we have to have our ministers and prime ministers, when they go on a visit to some distant land, to carry with them a folder with contacts with names of companies such as ours or Bacor here, so that they could suggest that interested parties in those other countries could contact us, because you can't do it by just saying you're there and you're ready to cooperate. Russia has been out of the public eye in those countries for such a long time that the name of Russian companies doesn't even come to mind. So we would like to join this process. We would be very happy to work with Africa. We're looking forward to visiting the Rwanda Industrial Exhibition, and please would like to see African visitors in our engineering companies. We have absolutely nothing against internships of African engineers in our factories, so that they can learn to maintain our equipment once it's installed in African countries. Thank you very much. Colleagues, this is a round table format, so we could give the floor to the person that you suggested, your export specialist. If somebody could pass the microphone to that person. So this is what we would like to hear. How does your company expect to compete with China, that has long become established in the African region? Good afternoon, colleagues. I'd like to add something to what my colleague said. For Arab countries, or for North African countries such as Egypt and Tunis, Algeria, Morocco and others, relations with Russia have always been very good. There's a long history of such relations. Russian products and technologies were known and were trusted more than Chinese. But now the situation is not quite the same. But is there cooperation with Russia in your countries? Well, there are many plans for this cooperation. Russian products are welcomed in African countries. And there are many parties would like to buy from Russia. Thank you very much. Now we'll hear from Mr. Vyacheslav Shopikov. He will speak about his company and its products. Good afternoon, colleagues. I want to thank the organizers for this opportunity to present our company here. Our company is called Informtechnika and Связь, that is information technology and communications. We are a young company. We've not been on the market for a very long time, but we have a number of solutions in the Russian communications market. Africa looks very attractive as a potential partner, and we're prepared to transfer technologies to Africa. So if I may, I'd like to speak in more detail about our company, about what we do and what we produce. Because external markets is not where our company is actively present, although the technologies that we have are cutting edge. So our company, called Information Technologies and Communications, is a group of Russian companies that develops and manufactures telecommunications equipment. Our highly skilled specialists do research and develop new equipment, and they plan and install sets of such equipment. They are also prepared to train engineers of the partner side. Our competitive advantages that I want to mention include our strategic approach to the contractors' needs. We are prepared to help diversify the economy of the contractor country by transferring our technologies. We own some of the technologies that we developed ourselves. And this is the underpinning of the equipment that we produce. So we can and we're willing to organize technology transfer. We offer solutions to secure critical information flows in different nations. And we have experience of standing up to economic and political sanctions pressure. This is not an easy thing to do. One reason why it is very hard even for Russia to stand up to those sanctions is that many technologies are simply not present in the Russian market without being imported. But and whatever technologies are produced are probably produced for the military. Now, the technologies that we develop can be done to order, and they can prevent hacking attacks from unfriendly parties. We're also quite flexible on the pricing side of our technologies, and we would like to broaden our cooperation range. A few words about the parties that buy our products today. It's mostly the government and security for services. It's also the oil and gas sector and other mining industries and transportation. I will not take up too much of your time by listing all the projects that we realized over the years of our existence, the 30 years of our existence. I'll name just a few, especially international projects, where our company offered its solutions and integrated them into the overall communications structure of these projects. For instance, we provided all sorts of communications, from security to telephone to a number of nuclear power stations, such as Kudankulam in Iran, and another nuclear power station in India. We are also prepared to promote such solutions to other nuclear power stations. Our equipment already works in a number of Russian nuclear power stations, and we're quite competitive there. Our projects can be found in many different industries. I will not list them all, but let me say this with confidence. Almost every country where Russia has representative offices, whether it's an embassy or a trade mission, they will be equipped by our communications equipment. The technologies that we have, I'm sorry, I'll have to skip a number of slides. This is our government projects, but you can see that the Kremlin and the White House of Russia and the ministerial buildings are provided with our communication solutions. Let me instead speak about other communications technologies that must be more attractive to our potential African partners. Telecommunications is what we mostly do. We offer platforms based on TDMA technologies, that is protected communications. IP systems are much more vulnerable. We offer combined IP platforms. We offer equipment for the Tetra protocol. It's branded Minicom. This is a protocol for operative communications in critical spheres. This I will also have to skip, but we're ready to convey this list to any party interested. We don't only produce infrastructural equipment, but also the whole range of user end solutions. In conclusion, without taking up too much time, let me say that today our company has a strong stance. We are prepared to transfer technologies. This is our competitive advantage over global brands, our competitors in Africa as well. So this is what I wanted to say. Thank you. Thank you very much, Maxime. Mr. Sholepov, you spoke about the African market. You don't seem to have a strong presence in Africa as yet, or do you already have some positive examples to cite? No, today we're just beginning to look for potential partners. We are open for cooperation. We have attempted this kind of interaction with India, and we're aware of the general rules that apply in the international arena here. But let me once again point out that our approach is the technology transfer approach. This is what we're prepared to do, and this is what we see as our competitive advantage. Let me make this bold statement. No other company in Russia today can offer such a broad range, a full range of telecommunications equipment. Our Tetra equipment, Tetra platform, is what we call the equivalent of Motorola or of Huawei. And you're prepared to transfer your technologies to African partners? Yes, we are. We own these technologies, we develop them, and we're aware that without transferring technologies, you simply cannot you can't cooperate with other countries. Now, the floor goes to Mr. Jani Ibrahim. He'll talk about banks and enterprises and the African specificity there.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to welcome all of us onto this platform of Moscow, Africa. And what I have to talk about is banking and is on banking in Africa as it relates to Moscow. Now, the Moscow Chamber of Commerce, you're doing an excellent job in trying to see how you can relate, with the Africa. I think by the time we look at what is happening in the banking industry in Africa, I have quite a few I'm only just going to speak to them so that I and also to draw a conclusion. And I'll go through this very quickly so that I can talk to the key issues that are here. Now, as far as banking is concerned, as you know, I'm not going to spend too much time on the introduction. The slides are available and they're going to be made available to everybody to share. But banking in Africa is coming of age. If you recall, in the past, it was traditional banks and majorly public sector banks that were owned by governments. But now banking is now moving, to the private sector, and also international banks are beginning to come into Africa. So I will just keep most of the stuff on the introduction and then talk about the banking system in Africa. If you look at it, banking as of today, only about 24% of domestic credit, is going to the private sector, in sub-Saharan Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa, by that, we're talking majorly about, West Africa and then most part of the Southern African countries. So this is an area, and also if you look at it in Africa now, banking, only about 20%, of adults, have bank accounts, on the average. So that tells us that there is a lot of opportunity, for banking, in Africa. And that is why we are now talking, expecting that the Moscow Chamber of Commerce and also the Russian industry, will come, and see how they can participate in Africa. As you can see, most banking that is done now with is mainly retail, is purely on the retail, and then a lot of commercial it is also existing to do infrastructure project CF, and this came in 21. That is the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. And that has brought the whole of Africa into a common market of 54 countries, 1.2 billion people, and about a $3 trillion economy. So that is a massive economy that you can approach, from one shot. The Chamber of Commerce, Moscow Chamber of Commerce should educate, major market that they can, that they can participate in. Most of the discussions that are going on now is asking is Russia. But I bet we have a very businesses, both transactions. We find out that the greatest problem, is the action in the there's no job that are there. So I have is how Russia look at investing and strength in Africa. So in terms of banking sector,
You're okay, you can go on. It's fine, you can go on. It's okay, you can go on. Okay, you go on. You can proceed. Mr. Salim.
Can you hear me now? I don't know if you're hearing.
Mr. Salim, go on. Mr. Hanifa, you have the floor. Mr. Hanifa, you have the floor.
Hello? Hello?
Salim Hanifa, can you hear me?
Hello?
Salim Hanifa, can you? Salim Hanifa, everything is okay. Please continue your speech.
Now you can hear me. Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Please continue your speech.
Yes. I was saying thank you for this meet, Salim. I'm working on the Mozambique Chamber of Commerce. And for the subject that you asked me to talk about, it's about the relationship that can help to increase the importance of chamber from the Chamber of Commerce for other countries. On that way, our and other countries like Mozambique, we have different ways to see the chambers of commerce. We can see on the way of a public, private, and private law, and how we call these on the public laws, on the chambers of commerce. Really, we can say that these chambers of commerce in those countries that we have, they can help to do how we call these economic diplomacy that can help our states. Because if we see the commerce or the relationship between our countries, it's on the percentage is so low that it's 60%. It's not too much. The reason why, because the chambers of commerce in Africa, they are trying to have the space to get more involved on the business. It's different like on Europe, like Germany, Spain, France, United States, like you, Russia, that the government is involved on these chambers of commerce. That is the difference that we have with some chambers of commerce in Africa. On the end, what we are trying to build now is to see the chambers of commerce more strong, to be involved on the business, on the opportunity of investments, on all the environments of trade. And this, you can see how in the Mozambique now, they have got opportunity on petrol, on gas, diamonds, gold, tourism, on that. But many countries, they don't know this opportunity that we have in our countries. The majority of these countries of Africa, the only thing that you can hear, it's about petrol and gas. But other sectors, you will never know. Why? Because the bridge is always do it by the Chamber of Commerce. It's not because we said that our states or our government, they can do political issues and economic, but on the business, we need more chambers of commerce to be involved and to help our government to grow up on our state, that they can be more strong and more helpful. That is my little reason about what they asked to me, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hanifo. We have some opportunity for a discussion. We have someone from the Moscow Chamber of Industry and Commerce, Mr. Santiago, but we need you to take microphone. I'm heading the African Commission at the Moscow Chamber, and I want to start by thanking the Mosprom and others for staging this event. And I want to thank all our African colleagues who made their contributions or who failed to because of technical problems. It's my assumption that our cooperation will be going on from strength to strength. Moscow Chamber has been actively involved in interactions with the African continent. It's true what we've heard from other colleagues, we see in Moscow as well. The chambers have huge experience, but governments tend to ignore them. But now we see more interest on part of the regional governments, that's of Moscow, and we see some positive developments. And if we work together, we could achieve some positive breaks, I think. I followed all the speakers. We've got a lot of things to ask from our industries, from our enterprises. Despite all their experience in various areas, they don't have much in terms of doing business. We can't come close to what China or the US can do in marketing, although their equipment may be not as brilliant technologically. So some of the solutions that you offered, if you think back to the Soviet times, we always offered complex solutions. What I've heard today, you talked about only parts of those solutions, but you can't sell a handle from a Mercedes car. There's no point in that. And the same is true of Mr. Korolyov's presentation and others. Anglo-Saxon companies won't have you as part of their already integrated solutions. So we have some memoranda signed with a number of countries, including IT technologies, but for some reason it never went beyond the red tape at some mid-level. But given some willingness and developments and wish to integrate more and ask for support from the government, I'm sure that with our colleagues from chambers there, we could start the thing moving in the right direction. We apologize to Jenny Ibrahim for technical problems. If you could do again, finish your presentation, Mr. Ibrahim, now, if everything works now. You can have the floor.
All right, thank you very much. I think what I need to say, just to finish up, is how to deepen the banks, in Africa. I know that Russia has put in some funding into Afri-Exim Bank. That is the Africa Export-Import Bank, which is supporting projects, in Africa and with big companies. But the problem is there is a huge infrastructure gap in Africa that is calling for attention. For instance, railways, which we know that Russia is very good. Mining sector has also been mentioned. The power sector, as you can see in Nigeria, for instance, we just have about 7,000 megawatts of electricity, whereas we need about 40 to 45. North Africa has done very well in terms of electricity generation. But so there's a lot of opportunity in sub-Saharan Africa. In terms of infrastructure, the road network also, there's a huge opportunity, but we don't see Russian companies coming to play. But to enable Russian companies playing in Africa, it's important for the banking sector to be strengthened. We don't have Russian banks operating on our continent, and that is very, very sad and is very poor. So these are the opportunities that are lying and that must be captured, by Moscow Chamber and also the Russian Federation in getting business to give comfort for businesses that want to operate, in Africa. Like I said, the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement has kicked off. 54 countries, 1.2 billion people, and a $3 trillion economy. This cannot be ignored. It's one of the biggest free trade areas in the world right now. So this is a big opportunity, that is waiting, and it only just started in January. So the opportunities are there, for Russia to come. But we have been calling, we've been knocking, we are still waiting, to see Russian participation in our economy. Our air transportation, like the previous speaker said, Russia is not available in air transportation. In Nigeria, for instance, Nigeria is 200 million people, 200 million people. We know that the Russians were involved in Ajaokuta Steel, in the aluminum company, but that is all we can mention for now. So these huge opportunities, supported, by the banking infrastructure that is already in place. In terms of banking infrastructure, you can be assured, that, investments are safe because the regulatory framework is very strong, and is following international standards. So these are assurances, that one can, that are already available, that will encourage investment, out of Russia, into Africa. So on that note, know that I've taken quite more time than usual because of technology transfer. So I would like to encourage a lot of Russian companies, to come into Africa, especially in the banking sector, to do some good business. I thank you for giving me this opportunity again, to round off my presentation. Like I said, the slides that are provided, they're already provided, to Moscow Chamber of Commerce, so they can be distributed to people who want them to show, the banking situation in Africa. I thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim. I'm sure that CEOs from Russian companies and banks have heeded to your encouragement, and soon you will see Russian companies coming to the African continent. Let us continue with our meeting. Mikhail, you had something to add? I just wanted to respond, and I am sure Maxim here will support me. And dear colleagues, we are quite sure that not a single Chinese competitor or European competitor will build in our solution equipment. We can do it ourselves. We have done it in Russia, and I don't see why we can't do that in Africa or in any other country in the world. You were right in saying that our products may be just a small minor element in the big solutions. But of course, it is very important for us to find end users, but we're also looking for engineering companies that conduct global projects. So we negotiated some German companies last year who had contacts and experience in integrating our purification equipment. And they integrate other bits and pieces coming from Poland and some other countries. And I want to ensure the Moscow Chamber of Trade and Commerce that we've been working on that, and we have support from Russian majors. They are very active elsewhere, and they could act as subcontractors for our gas purification component. Mr. De Court had something to add to that.
Oh, it's a question which I like to throw to the round table. I noticed that the Russian currency, the naira, it's about six naira to the Russian ruble. Your currency to the US dollar is 75 ruby to 1 USD. My challenge is this, and this is one of the things that I'm hoping we can take away from here. Why do I, if I wanted to buy machinery from Russia, why do I first need to convert it into USD before paying you? Is there a way we can set up a structure? So instead of me paying, it's 475 naira to a USD. If I were to buy your equipment directly, I would be paying 6 naira instead of 475. Is there a way? Can we look at that economically? And the reason why this is very important to me, I will tell you this. If you want to make a call from Senegal to Nigeria, that phone call will first go to Europe and then it goes back to Senegal. We tried some time ago to see if we could build up a central system within Africa. It does not exist. African countries cannot make calls to each other. So for the gentleman that is in IT, that is in Tetra, that is in TDMA and CDMA, I think that you need to look at that because those are enormous opportunities. But can you explain to me how we can make it happen that we are not buying your product at 475 naira, but rather at 6 naira if we exchange directly with you? That's my question, and that's what is really crucial to my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've heard you, and we have some more questions, I understand, and comments. We are prepared to get rubles for our equipment, but it's not the question to us as producers. This is the issue for the banks. And we could take euros and dollars. We've got settlement accounts in various currencies. We could use any currency. This is a question that may go beyond my capacity, but when Nigeria starts selling their oil for naira, then we will start, you could be buying all our equipment in rubles. International trade these days goes through basic currencies, and the attempts to change it had very negative consequences. And we know what happened in Iraq or Libya, and it had of course, nothing to do with what diplomats told us at the moment, at that time. I'm afraid it's going beyond our discussions here. What do you think, Alexander?
What about our communications so that we don't have the kind of difficulties that we experienced a few minutes ago? Could you do that? Well, we're not a communications operator, but it would be possible to use our technological solutions also for video conferencing, like today's conference. Now, colleagues, do we have any more questions or remarks? Maybe our international speakers or somebody from the audience would like to say something, add something? Then it is Konstantin again, but make sure you speak into the microphone. Now, no man is recognized as a wise man in his country. Let me give you an example of that. The Moscow Chamber of Commerce signed an agreement on cooperation with the country of Sierra Leone. That side was prepared to have us as integrators for many technological solutions in their countries. And what do we hear? We hear from the German side, and they are actually trying to implement some of their solutions using some of the Russian equipment. Why is that? Well, one reason is that Russian companies are not very well integrated between themselves. There was a time when Russian organizations were part of a single government-led structure in this country. But now it seems to have all broken apart and drawn away. Why don't you use the Chamber of Trade and Commerce as an integrating ground? That sounds like a very good idea. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can do exactly that. And we actually started doing that when we first attempted our European project. Now, colleagues, let's proceed to the next item on our agenda, which is questions and answers. Do we have any questions from the audience? Oh, apparently not. Then we'll have to draw conclusions because we've been on air for 2 hours approximately. How would you sum up the meeting that we've had today? In a world where some technical glitches can happen, you might still ask yourselves, is it worthwhile? Is there a need to meet in this format? Oh, yes, certainly. I've made some very interesting business contacts here with gentlemen around this table. And this was a wonderful opportunity to actually meet in person. I'm a strong believer in personal contacts. And conferences and roundtables are a very good format for that. So I think this event today has been very productive. We should meet more. We should take a broader view of the situation. And we depend upon the Chamber of Trade and Commerce to introduce us to the situation in Africa, among other things. And we're very grateful for the African representatives who familiarize us with the situation in their continent. It's very important for us as exporters to feel government protection as well. And a government agency was one of the organizers of the event today. And Russia Today helped us with this venue. A wonderful venue for such meetings. Yes, it's a very nice place, and it's a pleasure to be here. Mr. Shilaev, you seem to have something to say, or did you find it useful to be here today? Yes, what could be better than for two parties to hear the views of each other. If Russian companies want to start operating in Africa, they have to be physically present here. Very often we hear about very interesting Russian technologies, but they promote their wares from a distance. They are unwilling to actually come over and present in place. They seem to want somebody first to buy some of their equipment and then assess the potential of the overall market. That doesn't work that way. It takes more of a commercial approach to promote your interests more actively. What's needed is a very simple, basic representative office, and we're here to help you do that. Thank you. Mr. Adikore, what do you have to say in conclusion of this meeting?
I seriously wish that probably you could set up a mechanism whereby we can really understand. You might not believe this, but what most Africans know about Russians is what we watch in James Bond films about you always being the villain. But I think that you've stepped back too long. We need you to wake up. We need you to saddle up, and we need you on the ground in Africa, in mining, in agri, in aviation, in aviation, in aviation, in aviation. We need you. We need you in communications. We need you in medicine. We need you to come, and we need you to pay your due to humanity. And we're waiting for you. It may be rough at the start, but we'll make it work, and we can make it work. And I also heard that most of the Chinese technology belongs to you. We need it from you directly, and we're waiting for you. And we hope to see you very soon in Africa. Thank you very much for this time and the opportunity. God bless.
Thank you. Anyone else from the African side? Would you like to say something in conclusion? Johnny Ibrahim, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you very much. I know I had some technical issues, but I recall that the last time we actually visited the Moscow Chamber of Commerce, in person. And it was a very, very warm reception we received. But that's about 2 years ago. But since then, we haven't had anything positive and concrete, coming out of that meeting for development. It's taking too long, and I think we should begin, to walk the talk and hit the ground running. Because there's a lot of opportunity that is being missed, and everybody is asking and calling for Moscow, for Russia, to come over and let's do business together. So Africa is ready. Africa is the next big thing happening in the world. Everybody is coming to Africa. Agriculture is calling for development. Mining is all open. The infrastructure is huge. So, and that is why we are now asking, maybe perhaps we should lead another delegation, to the Moscow Chamber of Commerce after COVID, so that we can get, we'll then bring you back to Africa. So we look forward to that, and I wish you well, and thanks for giving us this opportunity to be able to interact, at this level. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. We will make sure that the Moscow Chamber of Trade and Commerce hears this. We might really take up the organizing function. As soon as the business community displays its interest, we are ready to act together with the relevant government authorities to organize such contacts. We have all the opportunities for that. We have the knowledge, the experience, the skills, we have the staff to take Russian companies and get them over in Africa. A few words from you, sir. It's invaluable to hear directly from our African colleagues. And taking a direct part in building joint businesses is something which is very, very important. So let's stay in contact and let's do business together. Let me join all the previous speakers and when they thanked the Moscow Chamber of Trade and Commerce, Mosprom, and RIA Novosti, and the department, the organizers of this meeting. Great thanks to the African colleagues who connected to this meeting, heard us, and said what they had to say. Let me, on my part, say this. We have always regarded business as a form of friendship. We are bent on making our business partners our best friends. Business contacts are best when they become friendly contacts. So we're welcoming colleagues from anywhere, from Africa, to come and see us in our factories. We're quite open with all the due reservations, which I explained by the nature of our business, but we are open to friends. And such meetings very often lead to strong and lasting partnership relations. We're prepared to supply our goods and our services at very competitive prices. We're open to personal contacts, to visits received and made. It's a sad thing that in today's world we have to meet online, but even pandemics don't last forever, and the borders will soon open and we'll be able to reach out and actually shake hands with each other. And this will lead to friendships and partnerships. I'm quite convinced of that. Thank you very much for having me here. And we're prepared to continue this kind of promotion work in any further events that you may be organizing. Thank you very much. This brings us to the end of this roundtable meeting. I thank all the speakers and all the speakers from the floor. Thank you. The best of luck.